Welcome back to the Speak Up for Blue podcast, everybody. I'm Andrew Lewin, your host of this episode. We've got some great things. We're going to talk about two things, actually. One, I'm going to address a listener's concern on my stance on eating meat. I think it's really important. She brought up some great points, so we're going to talk about that. I also am going to talk about some river shark science, people. There's a paper that just came out that was shared in the American Elasmobranch Society Facebook group. And I thought it was a really interesting paper, and it has to do with recreational fishing and river sharks. So we're going to talk about that because I know we have a lot of recreational fishers in our audience. So I want to get their opinion on these types of management objectives. Or this is really a paper that really comes into, I guess, ask the question of, is there a conservation issue, or there should be conservation issues, and more research needs to be done within that and working with the recreational fishers. So a little bit of sneak peek for there. But as usual, this episode is all about starting a conversation, and we are here to start that conversation. It starts with this podcast, then it moves into the Facebook group community, which you can join for free at speakupforblue.com/group. All you have to do is use your Facebook account, request to join. I'll let you in. We have, I think it's like 225 members. Hold on a sec. Let me just check. It was, at first it was like 200 members. And then all of a sudden, it was more than that. There's 242 members, people. This is amazing. I love the fact we had 37 new members in the past week. It's exploded, and I love it. Keep joining. Keep requesting to join. I will let you in. And the biggest thing is when you get in the group, participate. That's the biggest. I know there's a lot of people who participate over and over again, and that's great. But I want you guys also to participate if you don't normally. Just ask questions, share a news article, comment on that news article. It's always great to hear. It's always great to see people commenting. I really love that fact. So anyway, go to speakupforblue.com/group, join the group. We would love to have you in there. Introduce yourself. Let me know what your favorite species is, and then we'll move on from there. That's all for now. Let's start the show. If you are sick of hearing of the doom and gloom of the ocean and not knowing what to do, you're in the right place. If you want to meet people working to protect the ocean, then you are in the right place. If you want to find out how you can get involved in protecting the ocean, then you are in the right place. This is the Speak Up for Blue podcast, and I am here to empower you to live for a better ocean. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Speak Up for Blue podcast. I am your host, Andrew Lewin, founder of SpeakUpForBlue.com, marine ecologist, and self-proclaimed oceanpreneur. And today is a Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. I know I did, even though I'm recording this on Saturday. I've got had a great get-together with people today, Saturday, for a good friend's 40th birthday, and it's going to be like a reunion of friends, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys had a great weekend just as much as I did. I hope it was nice. You got outside, got on the water if you can, and all that fun stuff. I'm going to get right to what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about two things. One is I'm going to address something that I think is really important. A new listener who has been watching the show, or listening to the show, sent me an email. And I think it's warranted to be addressed. She loves the show. She wanted to know more, but she had a bit of a critique on my stance on eating meat, and I want to address that again because I'm not sure where she is. She says she's starting from episode 1 and moving. I think she's on episode 70 now, and she wants to move forward and whatnot. And I think I've addressed it before, but I want to address it again just to make myself clear because it's something that I battle with a lot, but I think I've come to a good stance. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a sec. And then there's some shark science. I want to start reading off I'm not reading off, but I want to start addressing and describing some new science articles that are out there in the scientific journal articles or journals. And I wanted to make sure that people get to know it, people in this audience, because I used to do it. About a year ago, I guess I used to do it, and then we had Research Thursdays when I was doing 5 days a week, and then I kind of stopped it for a little bit, but somebody asked me again to start this up, and I thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity to do so. Paper came across, it was in a Facebook group for the American Elasmobranch Society, which is all about sharks and rays, we're going to talk about it. It's going to be fun. It's all about recreational fishing and some threatened river sharks and some protected river sharks in Adalaide, Australia, so in the Northern Territory. So we're going to talk about that as well. Before we get into that, though, quickly, I just want to let you know we do have a Patreon campaign. This Patreon campaign is essentially a crowdfunding to crowdfund our mission. Essentially, is we want to put forth our mission, and we want to help people not only just raise awareness of what's going on in ocean conservation, but we want to help people get involved in ocean conservation. And one way that I always profess is become a citizen scientist. And one thing I noticed is that we don't have a lot of citizen scientist groups where citizen scientists can get together and actually, get together and share their experiences, know more about programs, meet the people in charge of the programs through a webinar or some kind of online platform, and then be able to make an informed decision on which citizen science program they want to join or they want to participate in. If they want to participate in multiple, track that, what they do, share their experiences either through a vlog or through pictures or anything like that, so other people can know how good it was or not or anything like that. And I think it'll be really helpful. So that's what we want to do. That's our first program that we want to do, is come up with a citizen scientist resource program. It's all free for sure, and what we're doing is trying to crowdfund that through Patreon. So if you go to speakupforblue.com/Patreon, Patreon, you can participate in that, become a contributor, and help mold the program. That's the idea. Is if once you become a patron, once you become a contributor, you can help, offer advice on software to use, offer advice on how we should structure the program, and so forth. It'll be awesome. So go speakupforblue.com/Patreon, Patreon. And that's what we're going to do. All right, let's get to the show. So the first thing I want to do, I had a friend, well, I guess a friend now, friend of the show, and she emailed me saying, hey, I really love your show. I started listening to it from the beginning. I'm on episode 70, and now this is episode 355, so God love you. Because it's not easy to go through that. You know what I mean? Like, and go look at all of them. But, she emailed me and she said she wanted to bring attention to something. She's been listening to certain parts, like she's listening to little aspects of the show as she goes through all the shows. And she kind of hears sort of like, me talking about how to reduce footprints and everything like that. And so she was a little concerned and upset to hear that I'm an avid meat eater. And I didn't agree too much with a woman who commented on how eating less meat is a way to combat climate change. And I think I know which episode she's talking about, or the couple of episodes she's talking about. Now, we all know that the way the meat industry is now, well, first, before we go into sort of my stance and everything and addressing this, I just want to say I want to thank her for letting me know about this concern. I really appreciate the feedback. And this is all, like, she gave me constructive criticism, and I fully I take that with a lot of heart. So I'm not insulted or anything like that. I really love the fact that people are calling me out and be like, hey, can you clarify something, because you're talking about loving meat and everything like that. And so I'm going to address this, but I want to say I have a lot of respect for this woman to come out and ask me about this. She was really nice about it. And I want to say thank you for that. So I just wanted to get that, and this is all in respect. And if you still have a difference of opinion, please email me back, or if somebody else doesn't agree with me, that's fine. Put it in the group. Join the Speak Up for Blue community and put it in the group. I think it's important that we discuss this more. And I'm going to also say that I'm not perfect. I am not perfect in trying to do everything for the ocean and live the lifestyle that I want. I'm trying to figure that out, but it's not a quick process. It's not like one day I'm like, no, I can't, I got to switch to this, or I got to switch to this. I got to go get an electric car instead of a gas car. Sometimes it's not as easy as that. And I find the same thing with meat and eating meat. Now, we've all seen some great documentaries out there, and this woman mentions, I'm not going to mention the woman's name just because I don't have permission to mention her name. I don't think it would be bad to mention it. I just don't have permission. So I just wanted to let you know that's why I'm not mentioning her name. But she talks about in here, there's some great, I believe she mentioned some documentaries. I don't know if I've heard of them, but I will watch them. Oh, shoot. Where is it? I got this email last night. That's why I haven't really looked at it. But anyway, I'll look at it soon. Oh, and shoot, I'm like focused on getting it, but I can't see the words. Anyway, I'll look for it after. But Conspiracy is a documentary, as well as Earthlings. So I haven't heard of those. I haven't seen those, but I will look them up and take a look at those. However, we all know that the way the meat industry, especially in North America, the way the meat industry is set out, it's set out as a factory, right? We've seen Food Inc. was really sort of the eye opener, that I think for a lot of people, a lot of us, where we're looking at animals and the way they're fed and the way they're bred and the way they're killed, and I mean just the amount of gas they release and fecal matter they release. There's a lot of methane in that, and then you look at the entire transportation system, and the amount of greenhouse gases that are involved in that process is immense. Now, I should say that there was a recent study, and I covered this in the podcast a few weeks ago, the recent study that says that, changing your diet towards a more plant-based diet is actually not even close to what we can do to really have a great impact on climate change. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm saying it's not as impactful of, say, not having that extra child, which I know is, and I said in the last podcast, I know that is a huge change because a lot of people want to have, the amount of kids that they want to have. But it did say that when they did all the literature research and review, they actually found that was the biggest thing, is population control. Population control and the fact of choosing not to have that extra child. So whether you have one and then you're thinking of having another, in that respect. It's a lifestyle choice, which is amazing, because after that podcast, I found a lot of people who actually chose not to have children to help climate change, which I thought was surprising to me. I didn't expect a lot of people to do that, because I was worried about bringing that up, because it's a human rights issue, right? Who do we have the right to tell someone not to have another child, right? So that was always a concern. But anyway, that was what the study kind of led, which was surprising to a lot of people. Because you talk about changing, lowering your energy costs and going to a plant-based diet. Those were like within 1% of what it could change, other than like not having a kid. And I don't know if that's all relative to having that, but that's how many studies really mention that. So anyway, my stance. So I do eat meat. Over the past year, I used to eat a lot of meat. I used to eat meat. I was raised as a meat and potatoes kind of guy. So we had meat, potatoes, and some sort of other vegetable. I think over the past year I've reduced my meat consumption, and I think it has to do with a couple of things. One is climate change. The other is expense. It's more expensive. I usually eat a lot of chicken, less red meat and more chicken, like white meat. I don't eat a lot of fish. And it's not necessarily because of, I think it's more because I find it difficult to find sustainable fish in supermarkets where we buy our food. So I kind of just stay away from fish. But if I can find a sustainable fish, I will eat it. But a lot of it, so the way and over the past year, I really learned about eating and fueling my body. I work out a lot. I'm a CrossFitter. I'm not into a cult. A lot of people think that. I'm a CrossFitter, and I eat a lot of meat to maintain sort of my muscle mass. I don't have a lot of muscle mass. I'm not in the best shape. I don't have a six pack or anything like that. But what I've been really learning over the past year and a half, I guess, or actually almost 2 years, I guess, of how to eat and how to fuel my body. I'm not on an Atkins diet. I did do paleo for a while. I'm not on a paleo diet anymore. I'm not on a ketone diet. I'm more just on eating what I can while fitting within my macros. So it's sort of a way to fuel your body and still eat, healthy, but I look at more for fuel, like food that will fuel my body. And I'll have to admit, it's an evolution. It's an evolution of what will fuel my body, what I can actually have within the household, and of course live within the lifestyle of myself and my family. The reason why I chose this one is, one, I knew it worked because I saw a lot of other people do it. Two, it's not really a restriction on the what types of food I can eat, just on the amount of food I can eat. And then over time, you learn to really, rejig the way you think about food in terms of looking at food that provide energy. So within this, because of my lifestyle, because of my workout regime, I need a lot of protein. And so I have to eat 180 grams of protein. And I have to eat usually per day. And I usually eat about 200 to 230 grams of carbs per day. And about 70 to 80 grams of fat per day. Now, that's a lot of food. I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of food. But to be honest, I've actually lost weight by staying within those macros. And it changes, it fluctuates, depending on my lifestyle and my workout regime and so forth. And I just came off a program that actually, I had a nutrition coach that actually did that. I hope I'm not talking too much about my lifestyle, but it has to do with why I eat a lot of meat. To get the amount of protein that I need to eat a lot of meat. Because that's where I get most of my protein. I do one protein shake a day. I find if I do two more, it messes with my digestive system. I do try and get proteins from legumes, such as beans, broccoli, and other sort of vegetables that I try and get that are higher in protein. I don't eat a lot of dairy or consume a lot of dairy. I have maybe one serving of yogurt, a Greek yogurt per day. And then I drink I drink coconut milk. And I have some cheese here and there sort of as a treat, but not a lot of dairy. So it's really just the meat. And over that time, I had chicken like every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day to maintain my protein. I think since then I haven't really had it as much meat. Like over the last little bit, I've been trying to focus more on plant-based. Some people ask, well, why don't you go vegan if you're doing climate change? The problem that I have with veganism, and I don't have any problem with people who choose the lifestyle, the problem I have is I'm not sure it's healthy. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I've talked to some people that are in the nutrition game. I've talked to some people who did try to become vegan, and they had problems with getting enough specific vitamins that were essential to life, and then they were told to switch off the diet, or they decided to switch off the diet. And those are people that, not just regular people, not just people that don't know anything and they just tried it just for the sake of trying it. No, these are people who did the research and whatnot. And again, I don't have any problem against people who are going vegan. I admire them completely. I just don't know, for me, if it's the healthy, if it's the lifestyle that I want in terms of health-wise. I want to make sure I get enough vitamins. I want to make sure I get enough protein. And I don't know if I can maintain that lifestyle. I really don't. And I have thought about it, but I think it's just, I feel it's too drastic. Now, with that said, in terms of the meat, I am sourcing more local meat than the big packaged meat from supermarkets and whatnot. I'm looking into programs that I can actually have at home that are local meats, that are from farmers who follow, local farmers who follow the right protocols. They're not just factory farms. And to be honest, I think that's a great way to combat climate change. It may not be perfect in terms of going to an all plant-based diet, but I think it's a start where I know I can still get healthy with the meat that I want and the protein that I need with the meat that I can get. And going forward, discover more plants-based food that I can actually get proteins from, and nutrients and vitamins. Because I eat a lot of salads. I have to admit, I should probably get a recipe book on types of vegetable dishes that I can get, or plant-based dishes that I can get, because I'm not very exploratory in that or experimental in that. So I don't know a lot about different dishes. I know there's more vegan restaurants around here that have been great. They're super expensive, but they seem to taste good. I like the dishes. It's just, I guess it's just for me in my lifestyle, it's difficult to get the amount of protein that I need without eating meat. With that said, there are ways that I can improve what choices I make in terms of the meat that I use. And where I source my meat. That's really where it comes from, is sourcing meat locally from farmers that follow proper protocols that will not contribute to climate change or contribute less to climate change. And I think I to be honest, I'm fine like that for my conscience. I'm fine with that effort. I'm happy with that effort because I think it's important to stay with that effort. And it's changing, right? It's making that change. It's probably going to be more expensive to buy the meat, but I know I'm making a better change for myself and my family. It's going to be healthier, no hormones, no medications that'll be in these meats. That's what I'm hoping. And that's sort of the case that I'm looking at. So that's sort of my stance on it. I'd love to hear your feedback. I don't want people to be like, oh no, Andrew, you're right and the other person is wrong. I don't want that to be that way, because I think this person is correct in a way. And I'm glad she's calling me out. And I've said this in a previous podcast, which she probably hasn't gotten to, and that's fine. And I don't think a lot of people have gotten to, but I do this. I talk about this openly because I don't want anybody to say, "Oh, Andrew, you talk about all this stuff, but you don't do it yourself." I come out before I said I'm not perfect, and I know, and I think it's good to hear that, because we're not all perfect. But if we make changes to our lifestyle, small changes, and then progressively make them, make more changes, then we can help. And if more and more people make those changes, then it becomes a bigger impact. And that's really what it comes down to. So that's where I'm moving towards. But I really appreciate the comment, because I think it's really good to address. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments on what I'm saying here, go to speakupforbblue.com/group and get into the group, and let's have a conversation. I'd really love to open up this conversation to the rest of the group as well. So we're going to move on to some shark science, as I'm getting back into reading and reviewing some shark, not just shark, but any kind of marine science and conservation publications that have been in scientific publications. This publication was written by Peter Kine and Pierre Futry. I hope I pronounced that right. And it's in ecological management and restoration, linking science and practice. And I love these types, and it's I think it's part of the Endangered Society of Australia. I love sharing these types of scientific journals or journal articles, because there's an impact, there's a conservation impact. And this title is Recreational Fishing Impacts on Threatened River Sharks, a Potential Conservation Issue. And one of the reasons why I love this, so this was shared in like I said before, Facebook group, the American Elasmo Rank Society. But one of the things I like about this article is it talks about the recreational fishers, but it doesn't condemn them. It doesn't crucify them, right? It's seeing a potential problem and trying to sort of, and understands that this could be a conservation issue, and that they're going to have to engage with the recreational fishing community in that area, in Adalaide, in Australia's Northern Territory, to improve that. So essentially, I'm going to read the summary, because I think it's important to give you it's a good context, and I'll go into a little more detail. But the Adalaide River in Australia's Northern Territory is a popular recreational fishing area, as well as a habitat for threatened and protected river sharks. They're glyphis species. Both the critically endangered Speartooth Shark and endangered northern river shark are identified here in illegal catches from recreational angling. The identification of the decayed shark specimen using a DNA barcoding-like approach is the first such application in the identification of protected sharks in a recreational fishery. While the extent of catches by recreational anglers is unknown, the threatened status of these sharks, their suspected low population sizes, restricted distributions, and importance of the Adalaide River as a nursery area call for the consideration of this as a potential conservation issue. As such, appropriate measures should be taken to reduce interactions with recreational anglers. The primary target species in the river is the iconic sportfish Barramundi, which is predominantly caught by unbaited lure. Sharks are rarely caught on lure, allowing an opportunity for mitigation to focus on a fishing activity, baited hooks, which would limit any regulatory impact on popular lure fishing. Potential mitigation measures range from an increased angler education and compliance checks to the implementation of a spatial closure to baited hook fishing and lure-only zone. Such measures may assist in meeting a stated objective of the Australian government's river shark recovery plan to reduce and, where possible, eliminate adverse impacts of recreational fishing. So I know it's a lot to take in. That's the abstract of the paper, but it gives a good summary of what the paper is about. Essentially, what happened here was during what the paper describes is during an actual TV spot, a news spot on the area, on the river that's in question here. And the river's name is Adalaide River. Well, that's in the Litchfield National Park. So it's appropriately named because it's in Adelaide. But it's 238 kilometers and as a stretch. It flows 238 kilometers to Van Diem Gulf in the Northern Territory's top end region. So this is up near Papua New Guinea area. So as a neighboring country. So the idea is what happens on a news spot. One of the researchers realized that when they were looking there was a news spot on crocodiles. And when they were looking at one of the catches of the crocodiles, they saw that there was I guess they fished a crocodile, and they saw that there was a shark that was fished as well. And they were wondering, is that a protected shark? And then that really brought up the question, are sharks being targeted as in the recreational fishery, or being caught incidentally in the recreational fishery? And if they're protected or critically endangered like these are, I think one is critically endangered, I read. Whereas one's critically endangered and the other one's threatened, right? So they're protected under the Endangered Species Act, whatever that's called there in Australia. So, it kind of begs the question, like, what's happening here? Why are these sharks being caught? So there's 3 sharks that actually are in this. So you got the Speartooth Shark, you got the protected river shark, and you've got the bull shark. And these are how do you pronounce it? Urethane? Anyway, sharks that could be in rivers. There's euryhaline. Sorry, wow, I should remember that. Euryhaline sharks, and they occur in tidal reaches of the Adalaide River. So you got the northern river shark, the Speartooth shark, and you've got, of course, you also have the bull shark, which is not protected because there's a global distribution according to this article. So what was interesting in this is the researchers went to the area after seeing that new spot on the area and seeing the shark, and they used a DNA process because the shark was so mangled, it was difficult to identify it. Noticed that it was a protected shark. The idea here is like, okay, what's happening? How many sharks are being caught? There's not much information on the fishing, in the fishing in that area in terms of how many protected sharks are caught. Now, like I said before in the article, it says that area is highly sought for the recreational fishing of Barramundi, which is a non-baited hook. So, by switching to by not allowing baited hooks, you could probably decrease the amount of sharks that are caught. That's sort of the thinking. So the big conservation issue is like, okay, how do we do that, right? How do we maintain the recreational fishing? Because it wouldn't, ideally and theoretically, it wouldn't harm the protected sharks because they mostly go after baited hooks, and you'll reduce the amount of incident catches. And how do you support a very important recreational fishing activity, which it serves as, like, I think it's $51 million a year in that area for a tourist spot. So, and I think 22% of that northern population is actually is fishing that area, recreational fishing. So it's an important area, and so we need to mitigate that. But it comes up with a lot of conservation issues, and here are some. So here are the questions: is what is the full extent of the recreational catch? Do these observations represent a common interaction between recreational anglers and protected sharks? So, in other words, how many sharks are actually caught? And if we know what the recreational catch is, we know how many fish are being caught, what types of species are being caught. do those observations actually represent the interaction between recreational anglers and protected sharks? So are they catching as many sharks as we actually think they are? Just from the amount of specimens that they actually found that were caught. And it wasn't many. So is it just like 1% of the population? Is it more? What is the actual size of the population? All that kind of stuff. Does retention, or which is mean you keep the fish, or catch and release constitute the bulk of interactions? If sharks are released, what is the survival rate? So just like hammerhead sharks get stressed when they're caught, and in Florida where they're protected, Florida state waters where they're protected, it's actually suggested that you actually just cut the line. Don't even take the hook out. Just cut the line and let the shark go and let the hook fall out, because it's actually less stressful on the animal and it has a higher survival rate if you do that. So that's another question, is what's the survival rate if it's released? And importantly, is a recreational catch aiding a continuing population level decline? So if these are critically endangered and threatened species to the species, are they continuing to decline? If they are, is it because of the recreational fishing? These are important questions to ask. Now, this is a paper that the reason why I like this paper and the way it's laid out is because it's not condemning anybody. It's not saying that the fishers in this area are doing it on purpose. They know what the major catch is, and they see an opportunity. The authors see an opportunity to decrease the shark catches by using lures, unbaited lures, to catch barramundi and still maintain that popular catch, right, that the recreational fishers want, without catching as many sharks. I'm not saying that an unbaited lure won't catch any sharks, but it won't catch as many as a baited lure. Then you have to look at what other fish are caught in this area that are important recreationally, and are they used baiting hooks? So there's a bunch of mitigation suggestions that they catch. There's a spatial one where it's spatial management in certain areas. Now these are nursery areas, so these are areas where young sharks will hang out until they're old enough to move on. So there could be seasonal closures in certain areas where they know these sharks are actually occupy. There could be a ban, an all-right ban on baited hooks, or just, like I said, a seasonal ban on baited hooks. So there's obviously quotas. There's obviously, you have to report your catch. There's a lot of different options that you can look into this, and I think that's what this paper raises, is people are catching sharks. There's no doubt about that. We just don't know how many, and we don't know if it's on purpose. We don't know if they're releasing. If they're releasing, we don't know what the survival rate is. So there's a lot of more information that needs to be done, but it does have some conservation implications. These are threatened and critically threatened species, or critically endangered species. That means they're not doing well, people, especially the critically endangered one. So there could be areas that are just off limits, either seasonally or full time, all year long. And I think we need to look at those and how those are done. So that's the paper. If you have any questions on those, please go to the Facebook group and let me know what you think. And if you have questions, concerns, comments, all that kind of stuff. We have some shark biologists in the group. David Schiffman is one of those notable ones. We also have a lot of people in the group that, like Ed Hine, that are social scientists who can comment on their experiences working in fishing industries and working with commercial fishermen. Now we also have a lot of recreational anglers in the group, and who are very knowledgeable in terms of laws, regulations, and just the overall sort of ethics of recreational fishing and communities. And they're on fishing fishing boards and whatnot, where they can, like, online, where they see comments from other anglers and whatnot. So we're gonna get. I hope we get a lot of comments. I hope we get a lot of discussion off this. I think it's really important. Now, of course, this is in Australia. A lot of the people that are in the group or listening are in the U.S., but this is not only, this can be applied anywhere else where there's not a lot of information on fishing activities and where there's any kind of endangered species or critically endangered species. So it's important that we take these papers and apply them on an overall basis and theoretically and from an application standpoint. But I think it's really good this paper was written, and it's important that these papers are taken seriously. So I want to share that with you. That's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, like I said, go to speakupforblue.com/group to continue on with this conversation. And if you want to help out with our mission to bring citizen scientists together, you can do so by going to speakupforblue.com/Patreon, Patreon, to put in your monthly contribution. And that's it, guys. I really want to thank you guys for listening, continuing, and I appreciate the person who emailed me about the meat eating situation and my stance on that. I really appreciate it. Like I said before, I didn't mention any names just because I didn't have permission, but I don't think it's a bad thing. This person was really respectful. I appreciate that. And if you guys have any concerns, comments, you don't want to put it in the group, email me, Andrew@speakupforblue.com. And if you just want to say, hey, Andrew, I really love your show and thank you very much, I like those emails too. But I love, I love all the emails that I get, and I appreciate you listening to the show and taking the time. So that's why you guys take the time to listen to me. I always take the time to listen to you, whether it's critical, critical criticism or constructive criticism, or just saying, hey, thanks a lot for doing this, Andrew. I appreciate it. So really, really love to hear what you guys think. Also, I just love you guys. So if you want to review the show, you can go to iTunes and where the show's posted, and you can review the whole podcast in general. But I just want to thank you very much for listening. You have been listening to Speak Up for Blue podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin. Have a great day. Happy conservation.